Right, back live with you tonight, here in Focus, and thanks for staying on. The community of Eldorado Park is taking a stand against something called a cough mixture high concoction. Anti-crime and drug activists in the south of Johannesburg community concerns about Spaza shops, which are allegedly selling this dangerous mixture to youngsters. Eldorado Park activist Dereleen James joins us now for more insight into this latest craze. Dereleen, good to have you, and thank you very much for your time. You are seeing the Banyaza wardens, and for you it sparked a whole kind of idea to say, we need these guys to come on board here and do a little bit of a raid of the Spaza shops. What inspired that idea?
I think what actually prompted me to tweet that on Twitter was following a visit to a mom last night, where we went to go and sympathize after she found her son dead in his room. And while we were speaking to her, it became clear to us that he died as a result of lean. All the symptoms that she gave us, his hands were blue, his feet was blue, he was laying on the floor, he wasn't responding. And we just thought, this is not the first case in our community. Over the past weeks, we've been hearing cases all over where parents are saying, and we're running out to school, where kids are collapsing, and children are actually dying in our community as a result of lean. And when we started speaking and engaging with some of the youth in the community, it became clear that many of the Spaza shops in this area are actually selling codeine, stilpain, cough mixtures that actually contains codeine to the youth of Eldorado Park. And after I actually commented on Twitter, I found that, this is not only in Eldorado Park. This is just about all over. And it's not only something that started now, it's been happening for years, and it's just almost a silent pandemic.
And where do they get these? I mean, one would think these are distributed, of course, by pharmaceuticals, but you wouldn't be able to get them in such high quantities for you to be then able to redistribute in your local Spaza shops.
Well, somewhere there's a black market that is leaking or distributing all of these cough mixtures to these shops. And one would have thought that by now, surely, Aspen Pharmaceuticals would have picked up that there's a hike in sales, in these cough mixtures, and would have tried to do something about it. But there's been no word. I've gone through their pages, their social media pages. There's been no word from them. So it is basically up to us to highlight this, to call in all the relevant stakeholders. But as we know that, you actually have people in this community delivering these cough mixtures and selling them for about 50 to 60 rand to children. We find that in the mornings, kids are walking with Sprite bottles, throwing the codeine in before school, after school. It's just become the norm, and I'm not sure why everyone just wants to be high these days. I cannot figure this out, but what I do know is that kids are dying, people are having overdoses, and the death certificates are saying natural causes, because no one actually suspects that this could actually be the cause. And it is with that we decided that we need to do something immediately.
So there are two strains here. What you're saying certainly should happen. One is the empowerment of communities, the empowerment of parents to know about this particular phenomenon, lean, because maybe other parents would not be aware of this type of behavior. So when they begin to see bottles of cough syrup that's just lurking around, they would certainly know that something is up. But two, you're also raising an issue of empowering people in stopping the renting of spaces to illegal foreigners. How rife is that situation in Eldorado Park?
It's very rife, and it's not the first time that we've actually come across this trouble. There was a time when we were honing in on the sale of flavor and okka pipes to youngsters, to minors, and we actually visited a few of these shops, and we found that many of these shops were selling over-the-counter medication freely and openly to just about anyone. And when we confronted some of the shop owners, the landlords, to them it was just, this puts food on the table, we're renting it out to these people, and there's no jobs, there's unemployment, there's no development in the community, and this is what we have all over. You find that the bylaws are not being observed by these people. I thought that it would be rather easy to clamp down on these house shops by simply calling in JMPD, but you don't see that happening. You see our local SAPs driving past these houses. We can see that they are not observing the bylaws. You can see that there's illegal activities. You can see that there's expired goods being sold here. but everyone just passes by and nothing gets done about it.
Yeah. I would imagine certainly it is a bylaw type of situation as well, but also it is a trading license type of situation that would need to be properly policed here.
Definitely, and this is why we've called on all stakeholders. We're actually having a meeting. We've actually called an urgent meeting tomorrow with all stakeholders, with SAPRA, with Department of Health, DSD, with SAPS, with JMPD, with NPA, everyone in our community, the principals, the educators, parents, everyone, to sort of put our heads together and see who else do we have to rope in so that we can come up with an operational plan to address the scourge in not only in Eldorado Park, in Gauteng, in fact, in South Africa. The tweets that I got earlier on was quite shocking, where people were saying, you know what, a son or a niece was hospitalized 2 weeks ago and passed on. You know, people are just collapsing all over the place, and no one has actually taken the time to hone in and find out what are the causes of this happening.
Yeah. You've seen, I suppose, in the last couple of days, the wardens in action. Do you have any members of the Eldorado Park community who are part of those wardens?
Well, thus far, I haven't heard of anyone from Aldos that's actually part of it. I could be wrong, but I haven't seen and I haven't heard. It is also alarming and quite shocking to know that the Premier was here a day after he was sworn in, as well as his executive. He understands and he's aware of the problems and the challenges within the community of Eldorado Park. And one would have thought that at least there would be a deployment of those wardens in Eldorado Park. And I think right now, we'd really appreciate their presence in our community to actually just clamp down on all of these shops to find out what they are selling and actually shut down these shops, because in actual fact, most of them are here illegally. They don't have paperwork. They're violating some of the health regulations as well. If you go into those shops, they're sleeping in the shops. They're selling food from those shops. So I actually think it's time that we clamp down on the shops. We empower our own community to run the house shops in Eldorado Park.
Yeah. So far, you've not seen a sign. I mean, it's something that we would still also need to confirm with the Premier if there has been a deployment, because in his address as he was launching them, he did say they'll be going throughout the province. So I would suppose that Eldorado Park would be one of those areas where they will be deployed.
Yeah, especially since it's a hot spot and since he has visited this community and promised drones and cameras and more vehicles and made many promises, and not one of those promises has been fulfilled. And since we're nearing elections, one would think that, you know, now's the perfect opportunity for him to actually deploy some of those wardens into our community.
Have you made a formal request for government to intervene in this particular matter?
I think, Tahu, if you know about the community of Eldorado Park, people probably think that we are drugs, gangs, and alcohol. We are not that. It's just the fact that, you know what, we have many active leaders in our community that highlights the plight and highlights the challenge in our community. And with that, we have engaged various government departments. I always say this, we've engaged local, provincial, national government departments. We have written to them over and over again. And we haven't had much change in our community. In fact, things are just going from bad to worse. And it is with this that we are always, you know, realizing that the strength and the change of our community lies in the hands of the community itself. Therefore, we are having a meeting tomorrow with our NGOs, NPOs. We've put it out there. We've invited them. But whether they're going to come and whether they're actually going to act, that is to be seen.
Dereleen James, as always, appreciate your time. Thanks so much for coming on tonight here on In Focus, community activist in Eldorado Park. Dereleen James calling for government to take action, especially in areas where Spaza shops are selling cough medication to young people to give them a high, creating awareness, but also calling on the communities to stop renting those spaces to illegal shop owners.